Okay, so welcome guys to month 2, week 1, day 1 of our Python course. Right. So for the first day, for the first week, we're going to be looking at advanced Python. Right. So then for today, for day 1, we're going to be looking at functions again. Functions. We talked about them in month 1, but today we're going to learn about more new concepts within functions. Okay. So we're going to learn about args, kwargs, right, and variable scope, right. So you're going to come across args and kwargs more often than you think when you are now creating systems, right. So don't worry if the if these names sound strange, right. By the end of today's lesson, I hope that they'll make perfect sense to you guys, right. So I just want you guys to imagine this scenario, right? So so imagine someone asks you to carry groceries. Right? Sometimes they give you one bag, sometimes they give you 5 bags, right? And sometimes they don't even tell you how many bags there will be, right? So,
Hello?
yes.
Sorry, said imagine someone asking what? Sorry, my network.
Well,
My network.
so imagine someone asks you to carry groceries. Sometimes they give you one bag, sometimes they give you 5 bags, and sometimes they don't even tell you how many bags there will be, right? As a programmer, we sometimes face the same situation. Sometimes a function receives one value, sometimes it receives 5 values, right? Sometimes we don't know how many values the user will send, right? So Python gives us a very powerful way of handling situations like this, right? With that situation, we use them with args, right? This is where args come in, right? Are we still together? Okay, for example, let's say name, right? Brandon, age 22, country Zimbabwe, profession software engineer, right? So these values have names attached to them, right? So Python has another tool for handling this. That tool is called what? Kwargs, right? That tool is called what? Kwargs. Then we also learn about scope, right? So with scope answers simply one question: where can a variable be used? Right? Can every part of this program see the variable, or is it hidden inside one function? Right, right. So I'll create a function called what? Add a b, right? Then let's say print a plus b, right? Then I'll go ahead and call what? Our function and add the arguments 5 and 10, right? So how many parameters can this function receive? Anyone to answer that? How many? Okay. Yes, Mr. Changa.
Characters.
How many?
No.
That's correct. 2 parameters, right? So, what if I now want to add 3 numbers? That means I now need to add another argument, right? Or if I just add it here, right? This is not going to work, right? What if tomorrow I want to add 5 or 10 more numbers? I must rewrite the same function over and over, right? So Python has a better solution for us to handle situations like this, right? Right. So to handle situations like this, we use what you call args, right? So instead of rewriting the same function over and over, because I'm now adding more and more numbers, we can use args, right? So let me rewrite the function. I'll comment it out, create another new function, def add, right? Now with args, we use to define an args, you say star, right? Star and then small letters args, right? Then you just say, for example, let's say print what args. Let's just print them, right? So I'll call our function called add, and then add this and then add these arguments 10, 45, 68, 100, right? Right. So if I run this code, what's going to be printed in my terminal? Anyone take a guess? Anyone? Anyone to take a guess? Okay, let me just run the code. Right. Notice that in my terminal, right, Python collected every value into one tuple, right? So this is what this star means. This star means collect everything, right? And then the word the args, right, it just simply means arguments. So args stands for arguments, right? Args stands for arguments, right? Right. And this word args, we can change it into any word that you want, but I recommend it that you guys use args and kwargs because it's what you're going to come across with most of the time. Right. So do you guys understand how args work? Okay, or let me create another example. Right. Let me clear my terminal. Right. Let's say def, okay, total, right, star args, right? So create a variable called answer, that's going to add all the numbers, right? Then we print our variable. Okay, so if I run okay, let me comment this one out. Right, if I run the code now, what's going to be printed by this function on line number 14? Yes, Mr. Achanga.
This is going to print 15 and 36.
That's correct. So the beauty of args is that we never need to know how many numbers the user will enter. So this just means with args it allows the user to enter as many numbers that they want. It's more flexible than just defining your parameters here one by one. Right. So there are some scenarios whereby you are going to use args, and some scenarios whereby you are not going to use args, so you are just supposed to use your normal parameters. Okay, so any questions about args? Any questions? Yes, Mr. Ajanga.
Okay, so in other words, you're just trying to say the args has become just a common term among the developers, maybe in Python, but it's not necessarily a keyword. Because I heard you mention that you're going to come across the term args so frequently, but you're not obliged to use args, but you can use it just because it is one that you're going to be coming across very frequently.
That's correct.
But it's sort of like a slang for the developers.
Yes, we can put it that way.
Okay.
Okay. So any questions about args? Any questions? Okay, so no questions. Okay, so remember that args allow a function to receive many positional arguments. Right. So let's move on over to kwargs. Right. So kwargs allow a function to receive many named arguments. Right. So for example, you can have a function called student name age. Right. We can print what? The name. We can print the age. Right. So student Brandon 22, right? So this works, right? But what if tomorrow I also want a country or professional email, right? So that means the function keeps changing. That means that for every change that's going to happen, I need to modify this function. Every day I need to modify this function one by one, right? So Python also has a way to simplify this for us. It what we call kwargs, right? So with args and kwargs, the difference when it comes to spelling them is that after the star for kwargs there's K, and for args there's nothing. Okay. We all see the difference between args and kwargs when it comes to spelling them. Right. So with kwargs we can say dear student or variable, instead of using 1 star for kwargs we use what? 2 stars, right? Wait, let me comment our first function, right? Let's print our kwargs, right? A student name equals to Brandon, age equals to 22, profession equals to software engineer, right? So do you see the difference between what? Args and kwargs? With args you can take as many positional arguments you want, right? But with kwargs we take what? Many named arguments. Instead of just writing the value, you also assign a variable to that value, right? So and remember that with args, right, they return what? A tuple, and kwargs return a dictionary, right? So I'm now running the code. Do you see on my terminal? Name Brandon, age 22, profession software engineer, right? So kwargs always return a dictionary, right? So yeah, with this dictionary the keys are the variable names and the values are the values of that variable, the information, right? So any questions with kwargs? Yes, Mr. Janga.
Okay, I just want to confirm if I've understood what you just said. So generally between quarks and args, I'm not so sure if I'm pronouncing them very correctly. You're saying for quarks, when you say it returns a dictionary. Okay, can you just scroll up a bit? Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. When you first introduced args on line 11, we then just created our function, line 11. And then we printed args, and then we created, okay, now you can scroll down.
Okay.
So when you said quarks returns a dictionary, in other words, you're trying to say we can set as many keys and variables.
That's correct.
Okay.
So do you?
What will happen if you don't declare anything? Let's say on line 34 you don't declare anything and you just print quarks without creating that dictionary which you created. It's going to print an error.
Okay, so let's remove what? The variables, right?
No, I was not referring to the variables actually. When you remove the variables, it should produce an error. I was saying if you remove the whole line 34, it's a meaningless function, is it?
No, line 34, that's one we're calling the function.
Yeah.
So if we remove line 34, then the function will never be called. So nothing will happen.
Okay.
So this is just like our regular functions, but the difference is that they can take many arguments, whether positional arguments or named arguments.
So can we put print? Can you put print below line 34? Can you remove print from line 32 and put it below line 34?
No, you can't do that. Remember that
Okay.
this print function is inside what? The function.
Function.
Yes, so it's when the function runs, which means it's supposed to print something. So if we remove this print function, we're going to get an error.
I know, I understand now.
Now you get it.
Mm.
Okay. So any questions between args and kwargs? So okay, since no questions, let me show you guys this. Right, say dev student kwarg, and for Python to know whether this is a kwarg or an args, it's because of these stars. If it's one stars, then it will know this is an it's args, and if it is two stars, then it's going to know that okay, so these are kwargs. Okay, so in simple terms, one star just means that it's just the value. Two stars, then there's what there's a key and a value. Did you get that?
Yeah.
What items? So let me just copy this. Right. If I run this code, what do you think is going to happen? Yes, Mr. Changa.
Yeah, I'm sure it is going to print only the keys for the dictionary. In that dictionary name, it's just going to print name, age, profession without the values.
But here we also said print key and value.
Oh, print key value. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. So it's just a print. Yes.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Allen.
I think it's going to print keys and value from top to bottom.
Okay. Let me run the code and see. Exactly. Just printed the key value, key value, key value. So a kwarg is your normal dictionary. So you can loop over it. You can do anything that anything that you can do with the dictionary. You can also do that particular thing with what, with kwargs. Okay. So do you guys get it? Any questions? Okay, so no questions. Okay, so right, remember that args, right, store values like tuple, right, position matters. Right, and then with kwargs, right, it stores key value pairs like your dictionary, right? So which means it's what, it's a dictionary, right? It has users and names. Okay, so any questions before I move on to variable scopes? Yes, Mr. Changa.
Can I just kindly confirm that when we looked into our kwargs on line 37, the dot items was introduced as a result of looping into a kwargs function, but generally, if we loop through a dictionary, an ordinary dictionary that is not a kwargs, there's no need to include the dot items.
No, there is a need to include dot items. Remember that with dot items, you are not getting both the key and the value.
Okay.
Remember that we talked about this when we looked at what dictionaries that you can get only the key, or you can get only the value, or you can get both using dot items. Right.
Okay, so even if you're looping in a dictionary, in an ordinary dictionary, you need to include the dot items.
Yes, if you want to get both the key and the value.
Okay.
Yes, because if you just loop over a dictionary, you can only get the key. You can get the value.
Okay. Right, okay.
Okay. Okay. So then we have what to call variable. Right. Variable scope. Right. Every variable has a home. That home is what you call a scope, right? So let's say def function called greet, right? It has this variable called message. It's just yellow, right? Then you call our function greet, right? And you will print what? Message, right? If I run this code, what do you guys think is going to happen? Anyone to take a guess? Yes, Alan.
Seems like print message apo itori error.
Why does it have an error? But here we declared what? The variable message.
Because print message is out of our
Okay, yes, you are close. The variable is this variable that you're trying to access is inside the function.
okay.
Right. Okay, so let me run the code and so that you guys can see, right? Now running the code. See, we got what? A name error. Name message is not defined. So line 57 it threw an error that this variable we never created it. Right? So the reason why it's throwing an error is because that this variable message we can only access it from within this function, right? Once we move outside the function, we can never access what? This variable. Right? So this variable is what you call what? A local variable. Right? Local variable. We can only access it within the function. Right. So okay, let me comment this out. Right. Let me create the variable message again with the title hello. Create a function called greet. Right. And inside greet I'm going to print what? That variable message. I'm going to call our function what? Greet. Then below greet I'm going to print what? The same variable message again. right? So this variable, okay, let me run the code. You see that this time it worked, we didn't get any error. The function and this print function, they both printed what our variable message, right? So now since the variable is outside what our function, it's at the top of our function, and it's not inside a function, a try block, an if statement or whatever, right? Everything within our file can see and access this variable. This is what we call a global variable or a global scope, right? So this is what a local this variable, this is a local variable or a local scope, right? So do you guys understand the difference between a global variable and a local variable?
So which one is the local variable?
This one, the one that is inside what the function. So it's only logged to inside the function. If you want to access this variable, you need to access it from within the function. If you try accessing it from outside the function, you can't.
Okay.
And then our global variable, it can be accessed by anything anywhere because it's not logged to a function.
As long as it's at the top.
It's as long as it's at the top or outside the function.
Sorry, Mr. Kumal. Outside the function, what if we had appended it below? Below, was it going to work? Your variable on line 57.
And
If we had appended it below the function, like on line 61, for example,
no,
it was still going to work.
no, it wasn't going to work because now it's below what the function. So
Yeah.
for this function, it's not going to work. So it needs to be up on top of the function.
The top.
Yes.
It's okay.
Okay. So with args, kwargs, and scope, do you guys have any questions? Any questions? Okay, so does that mean that everyone understands the difference between args, kwargs, and scope? Are you guys still there?